Trump's tariff threats. In late 2024 and early 2025, Donald Trump, then president-elect and now president, escalated his economic nationalism by threatening 100% tariffs on BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE. His message was blunt. If these countries tried to weaken the US dollar by creating a new currency bloc, they'd be punished economically. Trump quote, "If you want to abandon the US dollar, fine. But say goodbye to access to the US economy. 100% tariffs. Done." Backlash and backfire. Despite Trump's tough stance, the move rapidly triggered financial and political fallout. Economic shockwaves. US stock markets shed almost $3 trillion in value. Inflation fears surged due to expected price hikes on imports, especially from China. Major companies, particularly in manufacturing and retail, began announcing layoffs in anticipation of supply chain disruptions and decreased global demand. Political blowback. Bipartisan criticism hit fast. Many in Congress called the plan reckless and authoritarian. Senator Chuck Grassley introduced legislation to curb presidential power over tariffs without congressional approval. Economists across the board warned that these moves could accelerate global dollarization. Ironically, what Trump claimed he wanted to prevent. Global reaction. The BRICS bloc, far from backing down, accelerated talks on their own non-dollar-based trade system. The European Union considered tariffs on American tech and services in retaliation. China and Canada imposed targeted tariffs, while signaling they may escalate. Some international analysts began describing the U.S. approach as economic self-sabotage or tariff nationalism on steroids. Economists argue China plays a key role in keeping inflation down globally. Tariffs on Chinese goods could cause prices to spike in the U.S. Aggressive protectionism could weaken long-term U.S. competitiveness, especially in industries relying on global supply chains. Tariff wars typically result in a lose-lose outcome. Trump's bold tariff threats against BRICS, intended to defend the dollar and punish economic rivals, have seemingly triggered global retaliation, economic instability, and political resistance at home. Far from discouraging BRICS cooperation, it may have strengthened their resolve to pursue Trump's threats aim to intimidate BRICS into backing off their de-dollarization efforts. But in reality, it may have unified them. BRICS unity strengthens China, Russia, and India, historically cautious with alliances, closed ranks, accelerating trade agreements in local currencies. A proposed BRICS reserve currency, potentially backed by commodities like gold and oil, gained new urgency. South Africa and Brazil pushed for a new BRICS development bank to fund global infrastructure without relying on the IMF or US dollars. BRICS message to the world. The Global South no longer needs permission from Washington to trade, grow, or invest. While the tariffs were supposed to protect American jobs, in practice, they're squeezing households and businesses. Rising consumer prices, electronics, clothing, furniture, and even cars saw 10% to 30% price hikes within weeks. Walmart, Best Buy, and other major retailers issued warnings that inventory costs would increase. Supply chain chaos. Manufacturers relying on Chinese components scrambled to find alternative supplier, often at much higher prices. Layoffs hit sectors like auto parts, appliances, and consumer tech, especially in swing states like Michigan and Ohio. Stock market hit. Wall Street suffered a historic dip, losing almost $3 trillion in value across indexes. The tech sector was particularly battered, with Apple, Tesla, and others exposed to Chinese markets and components.